Welcome to the Partners Podcast. I'm joined by my good friend Conor Paulsen today, and he is an absolute killer at his age. He has two companies he's working on, one in the NFT crypto space, right?
Metaverse.
Yeah, close enough. Yeah. And then the other one that's lead generation business to business development company. I love for him to talk a little bit more about it as we proceed with this podcast. The whole goal today is to really understand the journey that Conor has gone through to get to his stage. He has just crushed it in the last year, and I can't wait to unravel some of the stories that will hopefully teach you some lessons that you can learn and apply to your own business as well. So without further ado, let's talk about your businesses. How's the Metaverse one? Because I know we've collapsed in the last year on the crypto side.
I love it. And we'll definitely hop in. So I have to rewind for a sec. First off, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here, and the goal today is provide value, right? It's going to come in a handful of different forms. My goal today personally is to try to condense these things, because sometimes we can get long-winded. So we're both going to do that or try our best. And yes, two companies. Fortunate to do some business development work with an awesome company called Sandstorm, and then really my baby and the long term, the career and beyond, working with some of the closest people in my life is Uptown Creation, a company we started 7 years ago. So that's in the B2B lead generation world. We have a cool relationship with LinkedIn and the Sales Navigator team, and we really double down on helping small to mid-sized companies that have sales teams typically of 3 to 25 maximize LinkedIn and without using automation, but taking over kind of the heavy lifting that comes with it and the intricacies of messaging and qualifying through that process, and helping partners, especially this time of year, and with markets, right? Companies still need to book revenue. So anyway, it's good to be able to help in some of those ways. Now, we'll bring it full circle and answer your question, because that is fun, and I know that's where a lot of our conversations have been, and you and me have both been busy. The Metaverse stuff with Sandstorm is cool, right? What's interesting and what I've noticed is that in this space, and I have a pretty cool pulse on it, because in the business development world, we're probably one of, I bet there's less than 50 or 100 companies maybe that's really embracing this Web3, that's been around since at least August of 2021 or earlier, that's been in the green for this long, right? So you see NFT projects, they got hammered. I mean, I don't quote me, but I think like Bored Ape, Yacht Club, a BYC, the floor price was something like 50 or 80K, the equivalent in US dollars. And I know there's a lot of factors there. That's fascinating to me, because like a year ago is, is like wishful thinking, like, oh damn, it'd be cool to be able to have one of those. And it's, whatever, 250K or more. It might've even been a lot more than that. So seeing all of that happen, but the exciting thing is talking to Web3 companies, and then Sandstorm, our company and team, we have one of the largest communities. We have the world's largest community of Metaverse builders, right? So when all these brands like an Anheuser-Busch, the Coca-Colas of the world, the Gucci's, the Grammy award-winning artists and things are coming into the space, you need not only the creative and kind of strategy hand-holding, but you need people to build these things, right? 3D artists and Metaverse builders. And so there's all these different virtual worlds. And I think that's, in my mind, the easiest way to think about the Metaverse is a virtual world, right? And there's a handful of virtual worlds already out there. Over the next few years, we're going to see hundreds and thousands of them show up. When you're in this world, you want all of them to succeed, because big picture, they aren't really competing against each other. They're competing to all provide some kind of direct value or service, right? So we're partnered with 5 in particular. One being the Sandbox, which is probably the Sandbox, and then Decentraland, probably what we define today, present day, in December of 2022. I want to quote this in case anyone's listening to this, because this could be vastly irrelevant. I'm actually expecting this to be, but they're the gold and silver, the first and second place of Metaverses today, virtual worlds where we see large companies and brands wanting to invest, right? And have these things built. So a Sandbox is kind of gaming focused in ways, right? Decentraland might be really good for specific events, or if Anheuser-Busch wants to throw a gated community event, right? And Anheuser-Busch, as an alcoholic beverage company, they want 21 and up adults. So anyway, our job is to broker them and help them understand. New York Fashion Week wants to have a corresponding virtual event, and they showcase it the week of, right? The planning usually starts 6 to 8 months in advance to have the build, and then the announcement comes out, and people that aren't in New York City can have, for the first time experience Fashion Week maybe in a different way. And yeah, it's cool. Yeah. It's cool. So that's my long-winded answer.
Yeah, you definitely took us into a journey into the metaverse there, and a lot of deep insights, which I want to zoom out a little bit for our audience, like the more non-technical entrepreneurs. Why are you investing in the metaverse space today when the average person that has touched crypto in the last year has gone burned, said, fuck this industry, it's a scam. You look at some of the biggest companies like FTX in crypto, just collapsing up, House of Cards. Why have you not called it quits yet? Is the money good? Is the opportunity actually ripe? Is it worth your time and focus right now in this day and age?
Yeah, those are great questions, right? And so from a high level, the umbrella word that I see all these other terms come is Web3, right? So Web3 being everything under it, being metaverse, crypto, POAPs to NFTs to like anything that's powered by the blockchain, right? And so what's cool, and what I don't think a lot of people kind of realize, is that what happens in crypto, yeah, it kind of has an impact to the grand scheme because most people don't really understand how all of this works. But in the next 3 to 5 years, and especially a decade, that's going to change drastically as these companies are coming out with more seamless ways to help people, right? Where people don't even know they're using Web3, and it's just a better experience for them. So the reason that I'm in it is because crypto isn't really affecting us. Now, as someone that is invested in the blockchain, I believe the blockchain is a generational opportunity, that we're at the ripe age where, it wasn't Web 2 when, we were probably like 10 and 11 years old or something, and I might be butchering the dates or like ages. This is where we're, hopefully in a financial position, or we've started teams, we've started companies, we've started to craft the life we want to live, that we can get into some of these investments. So investing, you can invest in all these different ways. I don't believe in investing. I don't buy NFTs like I did a year ago, right? I spent a lot probably in the last year, and I was fortunate because I had 1 or 2 that did really well, that kind of saved that. But I realized for the grand, for the larger amount of friends and people in this, they lost money. So I see them separate.
Yeah, for the ones that aren't really in the space, what is Web3 to like in layman terms? Like if you could sum it up in in under, let's try 1 minute. Yeah. Why Web3? Why should someone look into this industry?
Yeah, great question. So keep it under a minute. Let's rewind. How do we even get to Web3? Web 1 was, let's rewind to 1990s, and we're sitting in a garage talking about, this guy like Gates, he's starting this, whatever they're doing on the internet, it's just a phase, it'll blow by. But what we would talk about in that technology is what if we can replace, books, the sources, the things that we were using K through 12, right? But when the internet in that first wave hit Web 1, we didn't know what was on the horizon. And as we go into the 2000s and the 21st century, all of a sudden Web 2 happens, and that's the Facebooks, right? And you can have friends online because we're connected, right? And social media took power. This is that next wave. And when you look at technology and how it grows, it's at a compounded rate, right? And so on a graph, that just means it keeps getting more and more steep. And I think we're at an exciting age where I know there's a lot of unknowns that I don't know. And I will state I'm not an expert in any of these, but I've been fortunate to kind of just listen to certain people, take everything, as kind of like a third-party input. So Web3 is this new wave powered by blockchain. And it's exciting because it gives users more control, more privacy, and the ability to monetize on all of our assets. So any kind of creative out there. I think that's a pretty self-explanatory way of thinking about it, being able to track, never having anyone rip off your work, getting paid your full amount, being able to resell and continue to make margins. It'll allow businesses to operate more professionally, which is better for everyone.
Got it. So essentially Web3 is a form of the new internet, which because of blockchain, you don't have to like verify if I'm an artist, putting my work online, the blockchain is taking care of my royalties and payments. I don't have to worry about if a company is like lying about numbers or like, X, Y, and Z. Like, is that what Web3 is? Like, what's the vision? Like, what is a future that we're in under the Web3 like technologies?
Yeah.
What does that look like in 10 years? Like, what is utopia of? Why is Web3 potentially a future utopia?
Yeah, and great questions again. There's the simple way that I think about it is it's security and ownership, but thinking ownership in almost broad scales, like areas that I don't even know, but I'm just realizing like that is kind of the direction we're headed. Here's an example. Credit card companies very soon, if they haven't already announced it, but here in the next year or two, we'll start seeing credit card companies like your MasterCard. When you sign up for that new card, you get an NFT with it, right? An NFT that goes in your wallet. Now, you, if you're in a virtual world, for instance, or even a virtual reality experience in Meta, right? The goggles that people wear. And I'm saying, VR, AR, and Metaverse are kind of grouped together, even though they're different in awesome ways. Brands are frequently kind of bucketing them together.
But if I'm just an average credit card owner, like why do I care that I get an NFT? Is it like for like verification that I am who I am, or
exactly? So that way you're not having to log in. Your data's not having.
So it's not a monkey. It's not a monkey. It's not a monkey JPEG.
right. And I don't know the technicalities here. There's a lot more smart people on like the technicalities. So I want to try to explain it for like how I kind of view it. The part that excites me is just more transparency in business, right? Yeah. The blockchain, whenever any funds are transferred anywhere, there's always a paper trail, anytime, anywhere, right? And in the future, we're gonna have technology and AI-powered things to always track this. And what's cool here is this is how the average person can also see exactly how the government's spending, let alone how maybe the pharmaceutical or healthcare insurance world, or some of these industries that are kind of that have a target on their back, and maybe it's for rightful reasons, but they take their margins in places, right? There's a lot of people in America, and I'm sure in a lot of first world countries, that have a lot of people that want to take a percentage of any time we want to move money, right? So right now, when's the last time you used Venmo? When's the last time you used PayPal, right? Zelle. Zelle, there might be a little bit of a processing fee, but because it's ACH, I don't know if there is. That little processing fee, like those things get rid of it, right? So when I'm talking healthcare, it's more transparency, I hope, in the future, where healthcare providers are even shown if they're incentivized by a pharmaceutical company to sell more. And you can simply look because you can see that doctor's public address, right? So you can see what funds are coming in, what's not. And in the future, I think things can be tracked. So just more transparency is exciting, right? And I know it's a big and scary place, and it's still very new. So for most people, I don't know if it's the best time to even get into it. Like these things are being built. If you're curious, go online and learn. Don't listen to people that are telling you to buy. Just go in with open ears and kind of know the different categories and just be on the sidelines. Like that's the smartest place to be, I think, right now. Yeah,
I think that's valuable advice. Let's shift the focus to more of the soft skills. Like I feel like what we discussed earlier is more on a technical note. How do you come across good opportunities in business? How do you decide what to focus on? Like why did you get into Web3 as opposed to solar, or you're an entrepreneur, you could succeed in any industry. Why? how do you figure out not just the industry? Like if someone did not was just starting out as an entrepreneur and they're trying to pick an industry, how do they figure out what industry to join? And then secondly, how do they figure out what companies within those industries to potentially work for or hustle for?
Great questions. That question's going to be different for everyone, right? My best advice is what I can speak on, and it's go and experience as many things as you can, right? So throughout younger years, it was in junior high, getting into like science competitions, and that enabled me to travel and go to states and hop on airplanes for the first time in my life. But it's funny how I look back and I see how these things show up in different areas, right? So in college, when I didn't know what to major in, I took 4 internships in Chicago and lived with a buddy, Noah, and we split a studio. 2 or 3 of them didn't even pay me anything. One of them was like bare minimum, and it wasn't enough to like live there, but it was all in different industries. From like, at the time I was interested in fashion and in the retail e-com aspect. I was interested in manufacturing, and so I got an internship working with plastics and helping this guy create a pressed juice company way before anyone was doing this. Another one was working for an attorney that also owned a lot of commercial real estate. So anyway, it wasn't about getting paid. It was having a mindset of just, I'm curious and I'm going to take action on it. And anyone that's listening to this, watching this, you know, if you have that curiosity, and it's just the people that act on it. And when you go into everything in life, any door you walk into, you're just like, hey, I'm going to learn here. Things start to make sense, because when you experience things, you have a filter, right? You either like it or you don't like it. It's just as important to know the things in life we don't like as it is what we do like, right? Because it allows us to start to find these trends. And then once you start doing it long enough, I've found that you can start to figure out your own personal filters that mean more to you, right? So I like being busy, and I think it's good to have hobbies that pay you, right? I value communication. It's something I'm very passionate about, and plan to continue exploring just, you know, how to improve communication. How can I help people communicate better? And with these kind of baseline filters, that's like nowadays taking on these, right? You mentioned the solar sales, because I was doing that. I've always done, you know, we've had Uptown Creation, but it seemed like there was always something on the side. I did solar sales, like door knocking, selling, you know, solar panels to people in Southern California, right? Again, I grew up.
How was that?
It was good. Again, for context, I grew up in small town Iowa on a farm in a town of 3,700 people. My graduating class in high school had 72 people. I showed cattle and swine for 12 years. And I say that because it was a vastly different place and upbringing, and just it taught me a lot that catapulted me and gave me a good foundation to come out here and explore. And again, it was the curiosity. The reason though, and the point that I'm getting to this, that I wanted to take on door-to-door sales, because I could have taken, you know, we were working uptown, I'm getting paid. I wanted to figure something else out, but I wanted to better myself. And I had been in sales at this time, you know, going on 8 years. I had the cold calling time, but I wanted just the respect for myself to know that I've experienced all the different fortes of sales. And so that down the road, I can relate better to others too. That was a big part of doing it. You know, cold calling is one thing. I commend anyone that does it, door knocking, and anyone that's experienced that culture and going door to door, going onto someone's property, right? Unannounced, going to the door. You don't know if a 3-year-old kid's gonna answer the door or an 89-year-old, you know, about to croak. Right?
One of my first jobs after college was knocking on doors for Dish Network, like satellite TV. Back in 2012.
How did it go?
And I lasted 3 months, but I think I didn't build that much momentum. But the skills I took away from it were invaluable. I didn't make much money, and I think that's something that the audience, especially aspiring entrepreneurs, need to understand. Is like most of the most valuable things that you can add to your career is not making money in the beginning. It's acquiring skills that will compound and allow you to make more money. So sales as a baseline skill, I think everyone should have. And for those who do get into sales, they quickly understand it's not being a car salesman and talking about features and being pushy. It's about being consultative, asking questions, having empathy, yeah, exactly. So I think that's super valuable insights that you've provided, and like why you chose to go into this industry is because you went to this job world and you saw all these flavors of ice cream and you literally tasted all, like as many flavors as you can.
Dude, that's my personality. Like I want, Elise, my girlfriend, my nickname, one of my nicknames she calls me is like Sauce Boy, because like I love as many flavors, and I think it plays out in different ways.
Yeah.
You're spot on, dude. It's all of that. And I had an embarrassing and kind of reality hit me in the face moment when I was a freshman in college and we had our first company. We were funded on Kickstarter, and my business partner, one of the business partners at the time, he was like 8 years older than me. His name's Lee, awesome dude. And I was like going into my sophomore year. I had been attending every networking event. I was like, oh, dude, this is it. Your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. And I knew everyone in Iowa City, Iowa. It felt like are the people I needed to. And he reminded me, Conor, what are you gonna do like after school? I want you to know. And we're having like a heart to heart at some point, or it's just a serious time. And he's like, dude, no one's gonna hire you. You're unhireable. And I was like, what the fuck? I couldn't believe it. And it hit me as like, cause I looked at him like he was my, like in a version, an older brother, but he was telling me the truth. And it hit me because that's just a little ego flare up, right? And so now in retrospect, you can see it, but I've had so many of those things in my life. And so you mentioned those stories and then they hit me. They're hard for me to remember without someone asking questions. And then I think that's also speaks to like this mindset. When you start going after things with a curiosity and like, I'm just going to go into it. And if I am going to go into it, I'm going to just commit. I'm going to go all in. You're going to learn whether you like something or not. And then how do you double down? What was your number one takeaway from the door knocking, like soft skill wise?
I would say just do, because like that's, I think, the biggest thing that people fall into the trap of. They're thinking about, like X, Y, and Z, but getting the skill is just start doing it, and then the skills build from that. If you just think about like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and like you're like reading books on your strategy, you're like, what am I gonna do before? Like, I talk to the person, how am I gonna, like if you're overthinking all of that and you don't just go up to the door and go, I'm Brendan, nice to meet you. Love to learn a little bit about you, see if I can serve you, help you, see if there's a way. By the way, I sell Dish Network. Just doing it is the way to acquire the skills. And I think that's where, academics fail us in this day and age, is they teach us so much theory, but they don't give us enough time to implement, exercise, and actually see those the strategy and the concepts actually translate into real world value. And I think you,
I don't
as
think
an
it's
entrepreneur,
education. I don't think it's the education's fault at all. I think it's the individual,
Really?
legitimately. Yeah. I think just in general, we are headed in a trajectory of a soft freaking play. I genuinely think everyone should be treated on equal levels, but I think we're just headed in a direction of men, especially in the States, it's softer, and because of this,
what do you mean by soft?
Soft just in how you want to, what you stand for. And I think the hardest thing, or the easiest way to think about it, is what are you working on? What are you working towards? I think is the best way to think about it, right? Just in life, in any way, right? So Neil Artingale, back in the 40s or 50s, he has this famous speech, and he talks about what makes a successful man or woman, right? And it's his definition is the gradual realization of a worthy ideal, right? And it, simply put, it's anyone listening to this that's saying, I want this out of life. I want this out of life, right? And it's picking something and then working towards it, right? And it doesn't matter how much you're working towards it each day, but you are doing something that gets you a step closer, right? And so that could be, I want to be the world's best mom, right? And that can absolutely be like the direction, right? It's just saying this is what I want to be, and naturally other forces in the universe start to help.
So what you mean by soft, and the problem with, a lot of individuals today, regardless of them being men or women, is they lack a clear sense of purpose of what they want, and they lack the discipline to get what they want.
Yep. And then I do this because we do a lot of pointing, right? Yeah. And there's 3 fingers pointed back at us, and I think we just need to have realistic looks on ourselves and our lives for who we want to become and what it's going to take to get there. Because the information's usually within us, and we have YouTube and things too. So I guess, to answer your question, I say that out of excitement, because I think the people that understand we have full control over our futures. If we're in the US or wherever you're at in the world, we're fortunate to have technology. We have access to all these things, and we can come up with all these excuses, and it can be this political party or this person does this or that. And in reality, none of that matters, right? And you're going to be so much happier looking back in 5 years, let alone 10 years, let alone 25, let alone 50, when you look back to today and how you decided, the choices you made, right? And something special happens when you start to do 1 or 2 little things in the trajectory of what maybe your calling is. And again, like you and me were talking about, no one freaking knows their calling. No one does. And even if they think they do, it's probably going to change. And that's awesome, because our passions change every 4 to 5 years. Studies have proven it. So first step though, and I wish I would have said this earlier, 2 things. If you want to tap into how some of the energy and the mindset works of successful individuals, you get on Netflix or YouTube and you watch The Secret, right? And for anyone that's watched it, the first 5-10 minutes are a little hocus pocus, but the foundation of that is so true. And I can tell you, from the coolest business professionals that we've interviewed on the Social Seller podcast to our friend groups, they all understand this. They're all on this frequency. People don't talk about it, and that's fine. But it's a way of thinking. And then number 2 is go on Amazon and buy Strength. The title of the book is Strengths Finder 2.0, right? Get that book in the mail or go pick it up at your bookstore. Do it tonight if you're an action taker, and do it before they close. Barnes & Noble probably closes at 9 or 10, maybe holiday hours. And you're going to get it, you're going to go home. You don't read a single page. You go to the last page, you rip out the little slip. It gives you a code. You put that code in on the computer on the website, and you take this assessment. It takes 20 to 30 minutes. Don't have any distractions, and you don't even have to do it tonight. If you really want to take it seriously, you can do it at your prime time of day. For me, that's the morning. So after finishing breakfast, dedicating 20 to 30 minutes, no phone, and doing this. This is for yourself. This is for no one else. This is not a test to get a better score. This isn't to look cool for someone else. This is to hopefully to give you a foundation so you can know what's true of you. And they taught us this in college. I was fortunate to have some mentors that introduced it in later high school. It's at the end of it, it's going to give you some strengths. It's all different. It's very specific. And then you get to go in and actually read about them in the book. It tells you about, what type of experiences people that have these traits typically get excited in. What types of situations, scenarios maybe you should avoid. It speaks to a lot of different things that I know when I was a freshman and sophomore that helped out tremendously, or for anyone that's at this process, because it doesn't matter what age, what grade you're in, whether you got an education or not, it really doesn't. Everyone's on their own path, and their paths look different. Everyone deals with adversity. Life gets shitty. People die. The closest people to you, bad things happen, right? Your parents are going to be gone someday. And having these, just some version of a realistic look allows you to almost live more presently, right? You can value some of these things for what they are, but then you almost want to take control of your life, right? How did you want to take control? I mean, where was it at a young age that you knew you could start a company? Most people, it's pretty intimidating.
I think it's just, I think it was accumulation of events. That's a good question, actually. I don't think I knew, there was a certain point I knew I wanted to start a company, more so building up certain things that allowed me to have the confidence to start my own company, which is getting rejected by other companies saying, hey, you're not qualified to work for us. I'm like, well, fuck you. Let me show you what I'm qualified to do without you.
Yeah.
Right. And the second one is maybe like a combination of that with talking to I've always been someone that lacked, the confidence to feel like I could just get any girl I want or dominate a social situation. So at first I had to be the funny guy and I had to use that as an excuse to get attention. But then when I started learning, putting myself out there when it came to something called pickup, like going up to random girls and just saying, hi, I thought you were attractive, what's your name? That gave me the courage to take that skill set and apply it towards businesses and entrepreneurship, to go up to a random business owner and say, hey, this is what I do. I'm interested in learning a little bit about what you do.
Yeah.
How can I help you? How do we align? Where do our goals, how do we build each other's companies up so it's a win-win? And I think to answer your question, it's not a moment, like for me, it wasn't a light switch moment. It was more so of hey, I've acquired these skills, I've had these life experiences. It's time for this next evolution of it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to shift the focus because I think where our listeners will actually benefit the most is understanding how to navigate some of these challenges when it comes to finding the right opportunities, finding the right clients, finding the right advice to take, because there's so much advice out there. You run a lead generation business as well, Uptown Creations, right? Talk to me about, let's break it down, and I'm gonna hit you with like a sequence of questions. How did you prioritize in the beginning to create success?
How did I prioritize in the beginning to create success? Focused on revenue. That's really the most important factor whenever you're starting almost any kind of company. Getting to 10K a month, I think, is pretty achievable. And even when I was younger, I remember if someone said that would even sound like possible, right? And then starting to realize the possibilities of, if I have a skill set, that's 2 clients at 5K a month, and I could probably over deliver for that. So all of a sudden the possible became a reality.
I think that's really good advice. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, they focus too much on their product and things that don't matter around their business. And the most important thing to any business to survive and to have a chance is revenue. Like oftentimes, you look at the most successful entrepreneurs, they sold it before they even had it. Like, Bill Gates, he sold it before he had it, right? And then he bought it from one company and then sold it to IBM, right? His first $1 million deal. And I think that's super important. Let's jump into the next question because that was a perfect answer. How did you find, who's your ideal client and how do you find your ideal client?
Testing. Again, what I'm learning at this point in life is depending on where you're at in the market, you want to test your pricing and offers. So to figure out who your ideal customer is, I think the riches are in the niches. So getting more specific to who you want to serve. Sometimes people can understand that and their frame of thinking almost in mind works like that. At times I've met people, but for most they're like me and they've had to experience enough pinball, oh, that didn't, okay, we got to do this, but always learning from it and trying to make kind of a smarter, educated theory.
So
and a lot of it's
niching down is one. To get an ideal client, you have to know your niche. Right?
Yeah, and then the next is just knowing how to ask quality questions, man. Seriously, and this goes for anyone, whether you're in business or not, just learning to ask, and this is kind of a side point, but one of the best things that you can invest in is learning to ask better questions.
What are the 5 questions everyone should ask in a consultation? When meeting a business owner or a decision,
in the B2B world, there's going to be some basics, right? So if we're looking at a discovery call, right, that's usually a 15 to 20 minute discovery call. The point of that at a high level is to build a foundation, but it's information gathering, right? So the questions that we ask, and ideally we're coming in with a doctor frame, which is I'm the authority, not like aggressively or anything, but hey, I'm the expert here and I'm here to help, right? So I'm here to serve you. And you need to gather who is their ideal customer, how do they currently acquire clients, what's their level of urgency, how much does a new client represent in revenue, and what form a qualified lead, like how their systems work, how their sales process works. Simply put, I'm not sure, because a specific, I don't know, a broad question to ask there. It'd be specific once I've learned some insight about them that I would ask, because I would want to see how their CRM and our systems would just kind of integrate. Yeah. And then, like I mentioned, the urgency factor. I think those, and then next steps, right? So next steps are going to be important, and then getting them the right content and preparing them for the next step. So let's rewind, because I want to make sure I explain what a discovery call was, and your question before that was
the 5 most important questions. I think you covered the questions, perfect. And you were make sure. You segued into what to do next, right? Which is, after you understand the urgency and the timeline, the next steps, making sure that you're guiding the interaction towards, hey, now that we're here, these are the next steps, whether it's another meeting, whether it's, hey, you sign here, you pay here, and then we can get started. When it comes to your success right now with Uptown Creations, you're a LinkedIn partner, right? How's that benefited your company? And beyond being a LinkedIn partner, how has your business grown in the last year?
Great question. Yeah, so we're fortunate to have an awesome relationship with LinkedIn and the Sales Navigator team, being an affiliate on the Sales Navigator team or on the Sales Nav side. So we were brought in a couple years ago through a client in the government contracting space that also went to the University of Iowa, and that's actually just a funny side conversation for working hard for a lead for multiple years, and then how it can blossom and why it makes sense at times. But that is how we got into the LinkedIn and the initial challenge for them. So we've focused on LinkedIn for the last 5 years. Their initial challenge was on recruiting. LinkedIn's really good at selling their features, right? So if you've ever been on LinkedIn, you go to someone new's profile and it shows someone you have connected. It's your profile, someone you have, in mutual, and then their picture. And the feature says ask for a referral or, an introduction. LinkedIn has features. They brought us in because we're good at strategy. How do we use all these features? And all right, we know the B2B decision makers of the world are on here, right? It's the educated, it's the decision makers, whether it's small startup to mid and large companies. Board members are on here. So then how do we just figure out who the most active people are? And when you get really good at targeting and creating very filtered lists of the ideal people, you set yourself up in the sales world, and for any company that incorporates these things, to just have this accelerator to get quality leads in, like a turn switch as much as they need. And I guess I want companies to know that's out there. And again, this information is things that we have all the information at uptowncreation.com in our YouTube channel. We have a lot of free content. We want people to learn this and to be able to implement it themselves. And for anyone trying to learn a new skill set, or communication and relationship building is something of interest for you, hop in there and learning LinkedIn and lead generation. Become a personal consultant for a company. You could easily get paid a good amount.
So you've had a successful path as a partner of LinkedIn. What exactly do they call it?
So we're an affiliate partner with them. What that means is we not only get to be a part of development, like quarterly development calls with Sales Navigator, getting to have a say and input within what features should come, which ones should go, what we're utilizing, because we're working with a certain number of customers and partners. We're seeing trends and things that are important to them. So what is very cool is Sales Navigator and Recruiter, kind of the two paid services from LinkedIn, both very similar in certain ways. They both continue to get more and more powerful. Yeah, definitely keep an eye on LinkedIn. There's a lot of opportunities right there as we're in this virtual online selling era. Like, it's not going away. There's a lot of people that don't realize that.
I love that. So LinkedIn's a huge company, and you're essentially a consultant with a level of certification with them. So you're a partner to LinkedIn.
Affiliate partner.
Yeah, affiliate partner.
Affiliate partner, yes.
Yeah.
And
But-
we're separate companies.
Yeah.
We provide a service to
Yeah.
make sure they're maximizing.
The goal of this question is, how do you find great partnerships with bigger companies? Like, how can you provide value to bigger companies, and in return also get the value back? And then the other side of things, how does a smaller company, like let's just say there was a solo videographer like Rio behind the camera right now, or maybe a graphic designer that wants to work with you. How does one figure out how to create a great win-win partnership, whether it's a small person talking to a big company or big company talking to maybe a individual consultant or vendor?
Yeah, there's going to be a handful of variables. Yeah. So if I'm talking to someone that's, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone that's just starting out consulting and maybe wanting to leverage LinkedIn, that's a great place to start. I would get a 2-month free trial of Sales Navigator, so you can save the $250, and you can DM me and I can get that to you. The next would be, how do you use it? And the real basis of Sales Nav is creating filtered lists. So you identify who do I think, and that's where you have to start. You don't know, right? And maybe it's on the geographical aspect, you want to focus on your local area to start. That could make a lot of sense. Maybe you want to put in people that also went to the same university you went to, right? To maybe make that a little easier for conversations. But just start there, start having conversations. And what's nice with Sales Navigator is that you can track it. So the data will start to tell you kind of where to correct. And then the goal is you're sending 25 to 50 connection requests to that list. Once you have that list created, right? These are who I think at this time would be some of the best people I could be speaking to. Maybe it's small business owners. Maybe it's cafe shop owners within 50 miles of me. Then figuring out who the most active users are. There's a couple different ways to do that, but one of them in LinkedIn is going under the Spotlights tab under lead filters, and you can go to you can see who's posted in the last 30 days. Now you have this beautiful list, and ideally it's between 3,000 and 5,000. Now you focus your time there. If most salespeople knew that, they'd be so much more effective, right? Everyone's always wishing they had a better list, or depending on what industry. There's all different. Oh, that was not even a time thing. I legitimately had an itch. You crack me up. I forgot what I was saying there, but there are a lot of opportunities with LinkedIn. So if I was small scale, that's how I'd look, right? If I was just getting started, I'd also create a profile on Upwork.com, right? The world's largest freelancer database. Like, I would be on there, and at the very least, go on there and apply to a handful. Get on a few calls. Even if you don't want to take a position, go learn. You will talk to some surprisingly really cool clients. And at times you can get some big time clients that are hiding behind an Upwork profile. Now, if I'm going after big companies, I'm absolutely using LinkedIn, and now I'm using more systems, and I'm going to do a lot of, I'm going to do more of the deep sales work and get to understand who the decision makers are at the company, how much they're doing in revenue, how their sales team's broken down from BDRs to AEs, team size to what content, and almost curating what the path should be. So getting that discovery call booked through personalized outreach, maybe I send them an email, and engage with their content for a few weeks before. So that would be.
It's really good advice. And I love that you dropped like the technical aspects of like how to utilize filters. I think that's very actionable. It's about like the word filter reminds me of the word niche. It's like you're looking for something. You're looking to target something. And the more targeted you are, the more successful you have, because you're literally at, like, if you think about an archer, you're aiming at a target, and then you're more likely to hit it if you're aiming for that. So I love what you've provided us there. I wanted to ask you about video, because video is something that it is trending. You look at most of the more successful entrepreneurs like Gary Vee, like Grant Cardone, Alex Hormozy, people in the entrepreneur space that, you drop their name to any entrepreneur, they know who that person is. What are your thoughts about video marketing, and how have you implemented it in your own business?
Yeah, great question. So I think it's here to stay. The smartest brands, whether it's a personal brand and individuals, companies, are investing in it and continuing to. I personally got into it 7 years ago when we were focused on an Instagram company, and I was testing out like the influencer life, and that was again another like slap in the face, like in a good way, like, oh, this isn't for me, like opportunity cost, that's not really my thing. And then the YouTube and the podcast, starting the Social Seller podcast. So for us, it was, let's have long form content. I know the importance, and to me today, I don't have, I'm aware that it's an excuse, but I don't have the time nor want or drive right now to do that. I know very soon I'm going to. So we completed 55 episodes of season 1, which is on YouTube and all the podcasts, like streaming providers. When we go into season 2, in the next 3 to 6 months, it's going to be at a whole different level. Guests at another level, just providing value in a different way. I really want to spin things up because I'll have more time to dedicate to it. So the reasoning for long form content is then you can micro dice, right? The beautiful thing with YouTube is once you upload a 60 or 90 minute podcast or some kind of long form content, after a couple months, even a couple weeks sometimes, depending on traffic, you can actually look at the data and see where there's spikes and drop-offs within that long form content. That is usually some of the best ad copy and content that you can splice and dice, right? So taking the 60 or 90 seconds like piece out of that from the intro, and for whatever reason, people are going back and rewatching a certain part. Those tend to be really good places for like a TikTok and YouTube Reels and things. So I'm excited as a company. We're going through some really cool upgrades. And as we finish implementing them in the next 60 days, and as I make the move to Tampa, I want to be focused on video, because that's what allows me to help the most people and bring in the most clients at scale. That's the ripple effect.
Nice.
That's the big picture. In 5 to 10 years, I'm only focused on like content. I'll hop on a few meetings from time to time, check in with the teams. But it's video.
I love that strategy. I love to be aligned with it as much as possible. I love to learn from it as well, see how you're implementing things uniquely. I think one thing at ACRE Partner that we're really focused on as well is, putting into practice everything that we provide in terms of strategy. So taking that long form content that you talked about and cutting it up. So what I want to do for us today, and I actually wanted to make this offer to you live.
Let's hear it.
Is you've already done 55 episodes. You already have pretty amazing content. Like, I'm sure there's gold nuggets on every episode. But if you can highlight to me your 5 episodes that are the best, that you feel like have the most value that you can provide to your general audience, that will help Uptown Creations see the most attraction in terms of like, hey, we're putting out quality content. This is why you should engage with us. Rio and I and our video editing team want to cut up 5 or probably 10 to 20 pieces of micro content from 5 of your best episodes and provide it for free to Uptown Creations. And show you what we're all about. And hopefully that's enough to be a springboard for us to jump into this new season of the Social Seller together, as well as see where we can partner as 2 like companies that have big goals.
Yeah.
And so that's
first up, appreciate the offer, and definitely want to continue the conversation. So yes, and Oscar, we figure out how Oscar is a part. Now I know he's based in San Diego too, but I want to definitely get content rolling, man. And you and your team, ACRE, makes the most sense. So let's roll. Let's roll. Thanks again for letting me come on today and offer some value. Yeah,
and I think at the end of the day, when it comes to these episodes, like if you watched all the way at the end, if you know anyone that's an entrepreneur, that is a business leader, that wants to be part of one of these podcasts, or that would benefit from listening in on one of these podcasts, please share. My contact is right there on the internet. You look up Brendan Hsu or ACRE Partner, you can easily get in touch with us. And I wanted to plug Conor one more time. If you're looking for lead generation and you're a business to business type company, and you're looking to better target your audience, really niche down your offering, have a clear offering that you can reach out and engage with potential partners around, that's your specialty, right, Conor?
Hey, I'd love to have a conversation, and at the least explore if LinkedIn makes sense for you guys, and if not, give you some recommendations on other places. So appreciate your time. Yeah. We're about providing value. You can follow me on Instagram, our YouTube channel, Uptown Creation, and then the actual website, Uptown Creation, to dive in more about the team and what we're up to.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
And for those who might want to take a little bit of action, like I'm a big appreciative of action takers, is there an offer you can provide our audience? Like if someone can get in touch with you before the end of January, is there something that you can do for them to give them more value?
Yep. So if anyone is an action taker and wants to start January 2nd with everything onboarded, like rolling, we know who, so that means they know who their ideal customer is, or at least have a good idea, and they have an offer once they get that qualified lead on a call. If you get in contact with us, you can email me, Conor, C-O-N-O-R, so just one N, C-O-N-O-R, at uptowncreation.com. I can get you set up, we'll onboard you. The first bill date wouldn't be till January 2nd, and we'll provide you complimentary service for the remainder of December. And then if you're watching this and it's after December, after January 2nd, we can talk about something special. And you just mentioned Brendan in this podcast episode.
Awesome, well, thanks.
Hey. Thank you.
Love spreading the wealth and knowledge.
Thank you, Rio, too.